imagine an opportunity to come together with the foremost thinkers of our time and explore different possibilities for peace. Euphrates Summit, Our World Beyond 9/11.
Dr. Richard Hoffmann retired in 2007 from the Navy after 20 years of service as a SEAL officer. He was the Director of Education at the Naval Special Warfare Center in San Diego, where he managed the curriculum for more than 50 courses in joint special operations tactics, techniques, and procedures. He also taught mission planning, ethics, and tactical leadership. Of note, he deployed to Iraq in 2003 and in Africa in 2004 to assess and improve special operations planning, targeting, and combat operations. Dr. Hoffmann also served as a counterterrorism plans officer at the Special Operations Command Pacific in Hawaii. He taught at the Naval Academy, served as a platoon commander at SEAL Team 3, and as an assistant platoon commander at SEAL Team 5. He has worked in Australia and in countries throughout Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, including the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Korea, Iraq, and Afghanistan. As a side note, while at the Naval Academy, he was ranked as the best boxer in the country, pound for pound. So all jokes aside, help me welcome the intelligent, charming, handsome, witty, courageous, handsome, distinguished, and of course handsome. Seriously, we're not joking here. Dr. Richard Hoffmann.
So I'm the veteran of 76 boxing matches, and I'm rarely referred to as intelligent. So that's one of my petty officers, my first platoon, Forrest Walker. He said, "Sir, you know, you're smart because you're stupid, but you know you're stupid." So I said, "Thanks, Forrest. I think that's it." So 10 years ago, this month, I was locked in a vault at the Pacific Command underneath Admiral Blair. I was the lead action officer for developing the campaign plan for the Pacific Theater for countering terrorism. And before that, I was the counterterrorism planner for the Special Operations Command for the Pacific Theater, and that's why they fleeted me up to Admiral Blair's staff to work directly for him with a team of other colonels to develop the campaign plan. The lead in the shop was Colonel Chuck Cardinal, and he was a soldier, you know, very much a blue-collar intellect. Ranger for most of his year, and he too was a West Point boxer, heavyweight champion. And we had developed our campaign plan, which, you know, at the time there were a lot of emotional overreactions and reactions to the 9/11 strike and our strikes. And we recognized, we understood terrorism. Number one, the whole point of it is to, you know, sensationalize a weak cause to try to get attention. And we did not want to fall prey to that and feed into Al-Qaeda's objectives and overreact with, you know, military force where it wasn't necessary. Although we were getting cables in and correspondence in from Rumsfeld and the other staff and National Security Council to do something, you know, big and do something forceful and decisive. Instead, we developed a long-term campaign to engage and you know, develop teamwork across, you know, the international community in the Pacific Theater. We had a few, you know, Al-Qaeda elements. We had Jamal al-Islamiyah in Indonesia. We had the Abu Sayyaf group, which were holding the Burnhams captive at the time in the Philippines, and there are a couple of other Aum Shinrikyo in Japan, and a couple of other, you know, outlier groups that were out there with the potential to do bad things, but not related to Al-Qaeda. And again, we did not want to get wrapped up in the hype and in the emotion following 9/11. So we had a very measured, very calculated plan for engagement, theater security cooperation. The trouble is, how do you sell that? So Cardinal, who's a ranger, understands, like I said, he's a blue-collar intellect. he understands the need for images and analogies and metaphors. And so he developed the iceberg theory, which was our way to sell this to Washington and help them understand why we are not going to go, like a bull in a china shop and destroy things. And so that's where this theory comes from. So I'll talk about the theory first, then I'll give you 2 vignettes about its application or lack of application. First, just to put terrorism into perspective, this is in the United States. Deaths from terrorism versus deaths from traffic accidents annually. Now this, what I'm not, so you can put terrorism into perspective. What I'm not showing you here too, where's the bar that says, Iraqi casualties, Afghan casualties, and some of the other impacts from our reaction to terrorism. I work at the RAND Corporation now, and I do research. This study was just done by Cheryl Bernard, who's Zalmay Khalilzad's wife, and a couple of other colleagues of mine. This came out in 2007. The Cardinal theory, iceberg theory, kind of falls along those lines, and I wanted to just kind of show this up because it's sort of, I'm kind of singing to the choir too. We are all here, and the Euphrates Institute charter is to engage Muslims and whatnot. Now, this is about moderate Muslims, and I think when you see this here, you realize that Muslims are moderate. There aren't moderate Muslims. They're Muslims, and they happen to be moderate. When you look at the data, we are more like them, and they are more like us. There is no them and us. There is a we out there. Between the Muslim world, the Arab world, the Persian world, the Judeo-Christian world.
Who's the author of that book?
That's Zito and this is a substantial body of work in terms of the data collection and the analysis. So Colonel Cardinal's iceberg theory, and I hope we got it up there fair enough, but the theory is that extremists float within a sea of the population. And we may only see a small tip of the iceberg exposed on the surface of the extreme activity and extreme behavior. Now, if we invade the population with foreign troops, try to control them and attack that tip, we're just going to break the tip of the iceberg. We're not going to get after the main body of the extreme activity, which resides underneath within the population. And as foreign forces invading a country and occupying a country, we can't get under that water and get after it. We have to engage. So it's a simple theory. It's just a simple analogy to illustrate, and a metaphor to illustrate what we wanted to have happen, at least in the Pacific theater specifically. We weren't able to sell this globally, obviously. At least not in Washington, D.C. But the idea is that through engagement and maintaining our relationships and interagency work throughout the theater, we'll be able to get after the extremists more effectively. For example, if I have intelligence and I have evidence of bad activity in Malaysia, and I call the Royal Malaysian Police, that gets the problem solved a lot better than if I deploy, a SEAL team to go take the, to go capture the guys myself. That's disruptive. So same with Singapore, same with Indonesia, same with the Philippines. We can advise and assist, and we can aid them, and we can share information, and that is far more effective. Now, I'm singing to the choir. That's far more effective than if I storm in with brigades of troops and build bases and do airstrikes and whatnot. Conventional battle. And the shame of this was in 2001. October 2001, we briefed this. So it was accepted for the Pacific Theater. Unfortunately, 2002, we were already getting deployment orders and planning orders to go to Kuwait, to assemble, to go to Iraq. So And this was the, these were the, some of the efforts that we identified we would undertake building partner capacity primarily in the Philippines. And we had to work with the Leahy Amendment to get access into Indonesia, to work with Compassus. But the notion being that, democratically led troops and militaries like the United States engaging with the Compassus in Indonesia helps those militaries which had worked under dictatorships for so long, they didn't know how to work within a democracy and be civilian-led. But the idea is that if we work with them, if we train with them, we can help them understand how to properly function underneath civilian leadership. Go ahead and kill the slides. So that's the theory. And again, we presented that in 2001. The application didn't happen quite that way. So after I worked at PACOM, I transferred to the Naval Special Warfare Training Center. And while I was there, we invaded Iraq. And then while they were in Iraq, Paul Bremer showed up and things got unraveled. Nobody read O Plan 1004, evidently. And so we disbanded the Ba'athist military and the regime and dismantled all of their public infrastructure. So as things were unraveling, we needed more SEALs. So they called for more SEALs. And as much as I disagreed with the invasion of Iraq, I recognized that my country elected the leaders ordered us to go do that. So since we're doing that, let's try to make the best of it and try to make it work. So I volunteered and deployed over there. So I arrived in Baghdad Christmas Eve of 2003. I met Johnny Heil there at the airport. And Johnny says, "Dick, hey, how the hell are you?" Great, shakes my hand. "Hey, you want to go on a mission tonight?" And I've been a staff guy. I've been working with laptops and stuff, so I didn't even have guns with me. He says, "Don't worry." So he throws a gun at me. He slaps some helmets on me, gives me some night vision goggles, stuff I'd never seen before. I didn't even know how to change the batteries and half the stuff he was putting on me. And he says, "We got a brief in about 2 hours. Go get some chow. Get yourself situated in the tent, and I'll see you in the building for the brief." So I go in 2 hours later, get situated, and I'm in there. I'm just going to ride the trucks and be a communications coordinator. So I'm just going to go as a forward tactical operations center, set it up while they go do this capture kill mission. So I go into the briefing room, and Jocko is there. And he's the team leader. He's got 40 guys in the building, and he's briefing the plan. Jocko is the brick house. He's huge. He's got no neck. He is what you would expect a SEAL to look like. He's an enormous. He can crush you with his bare hand. The guy is a mixed martial artist. He oozes confidence. And he briefs the plan. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then we're going to get out of there. By the way, our target wears a suicide vest, so we want to get after him as quickly as we can, subdue him as quickly as we can before he gets to the detonator. And I'm hearing this, and I'm looking at myself like, are these guys crazy? They're going to go break down a door and rush into a building to go get a guy who's wearing a suicide vest? Like, whatever, I guess they've been doing this. So I walk outside the briefing room, I look behind the building, there's Johnny Heil, and he's throwing up in the back. These guys are tough, but they're human too. They just got through a firefight on a road trip back from Fallujah the week before. So that just kind of brought it home that you see the emotional impacts. It's hard to get on these trucks and go do these missions. The good news story was, they successfully got the guy who was he didn't have his vest on at the time. It was on a workbench when they got him. And over the course of the next 3 months that I was there in Iraq, they did 35 capture-kill missions. And of those missions, in only one occasion did they have to actually shoot a guy. That they were not able to surprise the guy and subdue the guy before they had to fire any rounds. So it was a fairly successful deployment for those guys, but that was the early application. Last year now, going ahead last year, the evolution of what we've learned since then. Since 2003, 2004, the civil war in Iraq, the confusion, and then we finally get Secretary Gates in, and then the writing of our strategy, the writing of our thinking, and now we're starting to finally start to apply and dig ourselves out of the hole we've dug in Iraq and in Afghanistan. The manifestation of where we are today is the village stability operations you see in Afghanistan with the special operations forces there. Just a quick vignette, so I need 2 minutes just for this quick vignette. So what I saw in Afghanistan last year was the standing up of the Afghan local police program. And with this, we've got special forces troops that go in and they engage the Shura. And they work with the Shura over the course of several months, and then they meet with them weekly sometimes in order to see if they'll be open to an Afghan local police unit working within their villages. And then from this, they stand up this Afghan local police unit, and it protects the villages. So you got Afghans protecting themselves, not us. So we get out of there. And then we, with this Afghan local police unit, we get to the district governor and we get him to endorse it, and then we fund him through the Ministry of the Interior. So it's not building a school and then walking away from it. It's going first to identify, does this police unit need to be there? 1, 2, will you support it? And we allow the Shura to recruit the personnel who are going to be in the Afghan local police program. And then 3, plugging it into the district governor and the district chief of police and the district attorneys. Many of these districts, though, there's 360 districts in Afghanistan, many of them don't even have district governors. So you've got to work with what you've got locally and have proxies to kind of work, to kind of manage it in the meantime. So you're trying to piece these solutions together. The problem is we have this population-centered coin strategy in Afghanistan right now, but we don't have enough troops to cover the population. So we're covering the urban centers, but only 24% of the population live in urban centers in Afghanistan. 76% of the population lives out in rural areas. And frankly, the Taliban outgovern the Afghan government in those rural areas. So the idea is that, so the manifestation is now we're trying to engage those, so the focus now has gone from capture, kill, and attack, and trying to whack-a-mole our way into stability or whatever we thought we were doing in Iraq, to now we're appropriately engaging the populations and developing governance first, and then security, and then with that we can usher in development. So the theories are out there. It's the application that struggled so much too, and the acceptance of it. And that's my time. I just want to give you guys a snapshot, sort of a quick synopsis of sort of the to and fro of where we started and where we're trying to get to today. And I think that's all I have.